So just tell us a little bit more about your journey, because we've had a lot of personal chats, and I really find your journey in music, and especially if you would like to tell people about your experience with the Seychelles and how that affected your music career. I think that would be interesting for aspiring music artists to hear.
Well, for most of you who don't know, I've lived in the UAE for about 11 years. I've got a corporate background, and then whilst I was working, I was also pushing my music career. And I think having a 9-to-5 really helped me with getting to where I am musically at the minute. So I got a call that, MKO, you've been booked for a show in Seychelles, and I was wondering, okay, who knows MKO in Seychelles? Turns out that one DJ was sort of, going through YouTube, and he stumbled on my record, Good Loving, and he was playing that consistently on radio.
The power of the DJ.
Do you get me? Like, we all need you guys. We can't do this without DJs. But anyway, so I arrived in Seychelles, and I got on stage. And at this point, I was thinking, you know what, I'm just going to do this for the love of the music and for the opportunity of being here. Got on the mic, and the song just came on. It's another one, it's MK, and everybody went completely mental. And at this point, I'm thinking, I didn't know that guy in Dubai who's been trying to get his music out there. I wouldn't say a big deal, but his music is such a huge deal in a small island, and 6,000 people are here to see me do my thing. I think that was an eye-opener for me. And at that point, I realized that you don't have to focus on where you are. You gotta have to think bigger and understand that the world is a much bigger place, and there are so many people you can connect with. You could have a base, which is Dubai for me, but Dubai is just a small, the small part of it. Yeah. You gotta have to think about the world entirely, and that's what Seychelles did for me.
Yeah, I think that's really inspiring to hear, because as Mazzy was saying in his talk, he had a track that blew up in Greece. So that's why I kind of wanted to ask you about that, because I think a lot of artists, sometimes they get a little bit depressed, or they feel like they're not appreciated in the city. I mean, as a DJ, I found I got statistics on the listenership of some of my mixes, and I found that 90% of the listeners of my stuff were in the US and in Japan.
Yeah.
So but obviously I'm very well known here, because because the mixes I put out are more conceptual. So but the stuff that I play out in the party is different.
Yeah.
So I think, for artists like yourself, etc., I think having that global perspective, if your music's good, there's always going to be someone somewhere in the world that's going to appreciate it.
And you don't have to narrow it down to just where you're based. Like you said, I'm known here. I'm popular outside of the UAE. You get I got a booking in Kenya, and I arrived, and there were 3 other venues that wanted to, book me around the same time. And at that minute, I realized that, there is a lot more that we could give as artists, and we have consumers. You just have to keep grinding, because they are there waiting for you to put out something that will get their attention. Yeah. Okay, and I also run a platform called Art Fusion Night. Art Fusion Night is a platform that we created to showcase local-based creatives. We've been doing this for about 3 years. And we've collaborated with brands like Nakil, Davidoff, Capital Club in DIFC. So what we do at Art Fusion Night is we showcase art, music, fashion, poetry, comedy, and all sorts. So it's a night where we showcase all forms of art. Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised at the number of talents that have passed through that platform, and they've all done bigger things. We have a guy who won the Emerging Artist of the Year at World Art Dubai, and the cheapest art piece that he owns he sells is probably $8,000. He is kind of a big deal, but he has never ever showcased his piece on any platform. So Art Fusion Night was the first place where he came and did his thing, and for us that was it was an achievement to see him go from where he was to where he is. It's not about the success in terms of the monetary aspect. It's the fact that now he's known, his work has been appreciated. And then when we started the platform, a bunch of other people are sort of replicating the concept, which is an amazing idea, amazing thing, because it means there are more platforms for creatives to showcase themselves. You know, because when we started it, it was almost like, who's gonna come out and watch an unknown artist? But my response was always, I would give you a reason to do so, because you're not coming to see them, you're coming to see what they have to offer, which is their talent. You know, so I'm pleased to see where Art Fusion Night is now, and I'm pleased to see that other platforms have come up and they've started to see what we saw many years ago, that there are so many talents in the UAE that everyone can tap from.
And I would agree with you. I mean, my experience has been the same. I think as an artist in the UAE, where the industry can be either non-existent or slightly unforgiving, or at least, you know, it's definitely grown a lot. But when I started out, I think creating platforms is a fantastic way to not only uplift yourself, but then have a way to uplift other artists as well. So
yeah, big shout out to Emirates Music Summit.
Yes.
I mean, I hadn't seen you for about 8 months now,
Right.
but here we are, and I've met so many amazing people tonight. So the more we can have, the more of such initiative, the more we can all get connected, and we can have a more personal relationship. It wouldn't seem like, oh, I've been hearing about this MKO guy. Okay, whatever. I've been hearing about Lobito, but there is a personal touch.
Right.
You know, like if it wasn't for the listening party or however way we got connected,
Right.
it would have been like one of those names I've been hearing, Lobito, or because I know of your work.
Yeah.
But there is a huge difference when there is a personal touch.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's rare to get me out into the spotlight. So shout out to Albert. Because
Shout out to Albert, I know.
I tend to stay in my cave working on my projects. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we need more, more platforms like this. And then, the big guy who is sort of taking control of the world right now, coronavirus. Tell me, what impact does it have on you?
Well, I think, it's first thing is, I think a lot of people online have suddenly become medical experts, and I think that's a mistake. So I'm not going to be the guy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
I've read about it like anybody, should, just to educate myself on what's happening and how it's affecting things. You know, I have a lot of friends. I think the economic impact is more severe for a lot of people than the medical impact. Not to downplay the virus, but I think the way that things have been handled by a lot of countries has worsened the economic impact on people.
Right.
And I think that's going to affect a lot more people, and we still don't know the full extent of that.
Yeah.
So I think in the context of this talk, it's important to communicate to artists to really start to think laterally about other ways that you can make revenue and get your creative hats on of what can you do digitally, what can you do online, how can you improve your revenue streams, instead of just sitting back either pretending something's not happening or sitting back pretending like you have it all under control or it's not going to affect you. I think it's a good exercise for anybody in the creative industry to really look at, okay, how can let's assume things get further locked down. Let's assume my revenue streams get pulled currently. How can I sustain myself if this is my only source of income?
I think that is it's a great point, because you realize that a bunch of people here focus on just their art. They don't understand that it's a business, and there are a much more entrepreneurial aspect to whatever we do. I got 3 shows that were cancelled, 2 in Abu Dhabi, 1 in Bahrain, and 1 in Dubai, so 4. And this particular event, obviously, you could see the huge impact which it has on the event. So I think it's a wake-up call for many of us to have other means of revenue streams as opposed to just focusing on what we do musically. I run an event company. I own a label. I sing. But what else can I do when something like this happens in the future? Do you get me?
I agree 100%, and
Yeah.
I think an event like this and to communicate any message right now would be to use these kind of platforms now to connect with other creatives, find out what they're going through.
Yeah.
It's good anyway, just for mental health within the community, get them to share what's happening to them,
them,
and then look for solutions.
Yeah.
And then see how we can collaborate in order to build platforms that maybe didn't exist before that we can use in these difficult times.
And maybe we can take more advantage of the online platform. So, for example, an event like this could be streamed online, and which means people could pay maybe 5 dirhams to stream it live. So you don't necessarily have to focus on having to be in a much more crowded place to be part of an event or a community.
You could establish your own platform. There's established platforms like Patreon that I know a lot of people use as well.
Yeah.
There's different means. I think we need to bring it to a close. So
yeah, that's it.
Thanks so much, MKO.
Listen,
I really appreciate your time.
It's always a pleasure, man. And I'm sure we're going to do more things like this. Big shout out, Berto. Nice one, man.